Let's go back to our top story, the solidarity rallies across France in the wake of the fatal shooting of 17 people by terrorists in Paris. We can get some reaction to that and a look ahead to what might happen next with former CIA officer Ray McGovern, who joins us now. Thanks very much for coming on to the programme. An historic day for France. Millions of people came out to show their unity against terrorism. But do you think now that they'll be open to stricter and more stringent anti-terror laws? What do you think?
Well, I think the stoking of fear, be afraid, be very afraid, is typical of what happened after 9/11 in our country. I don't think it helps. I think it inspires the worst in us, the spirit of vengeance. And when I hear the talk about increasing surveillance measures, well, you know, it is fact, not interpretation, that there were enough surveillance measures against these two from the beginning. They were on the no-fly list. They were communicating in unencrypted telephone conversations, as far as we know. There was everything in place necessary to get these guys. Why they weren't gotten is really a puzzle. Now, there are lots of conspiracy theories saying the French let them do this. I can't buy that. It's more typical of Western intelligence services to be just really dumb, really ineffectual. And if you need proof of that, read James Risen's latest book when he talks about the fellows that ran the place where I used to work for 27 years were just completely clowns and could not cope with the challenges that they faced after the Cold War. Okay,
I mean, in their defence, we do know they don't give details, but they do say they have foiled many attacks recently as well. This could also, Ray, this could see them, well, they are under a lot of pressure now, authorities, to take decisive action in the wake of what has happened. What sort of action can they take, do you think, that would actually help the situation?
Well, they can avoid building a larger haystack of information on terrorists. Now, what I mean is this. When NSA and various allies decide to collect everything on the whole, from the whole world, from all of us, and put it in this haystack, lest they miss anything, they can't get any needles under this haystack. So divert the billions of dollars that went into that into tried and true defective techniques, intelligence analysis, and you'll be able to nab people like Abdul Muttalib, the fellow that tried to down a commercial aircraft over Detroit on Christmas Day 2009. You're able to get these folks just traditional detective work. And the reason that a lot of that does not happen anymore is because of this fixation with, well, we'll collect all the conversations. Well, the conversations weren't even encrypted. Why was no one listening to these two? It just defies the imagination. What needs to happen is go back to the tried and true intelligence techniques that we were all familiar with during the Cold War and shortly thereafter, which were all cast aside as soon as multi-million-dollar corporations decided that they can make a lot of money by selling these ineffectual eavesdropping, blanket eavesdropping techniques to the Western services.
Ray, from what you say, you believe this could be then potentially a wake-up call to security services to change the way they do things. Do you think that will happen, though, and why? If not, I assume you don't, why won't they do that, in your opinion?
Well, it really depends on the media. Now, with the exception of RT, Al Jazeera, and a couple other places, the French, United States citizens, they won't know. They won't know what I just said, that the conversations were not encrypted. These guys were on the no-fly list. Everything was in place to get them. Why didn't they get them? Well, how are we going to repair that situation? We'll spend much more dollars and francs on these ineffectual building of haystacks. So what I'm saying here is that it's not likely to change unless the mass media in these countries gets a little honest about this business and says, look, this was a failure, an utter failure of intelligence. The information was there. This should never have happened.
OK, Ray, we do have to leave it there. That was former CIA officer Ray McGovern. Thanks very much for your thoughts on what might come next. Thank you.
You're most welcome.